Live. All right, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday. You know what that means? It's college game day today. It is September 25th, and we are at week 4 of college football. I'm here today joined by Antoine Staley. Twan, how you doing today?
I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I woke up and I'm just thinking about last week's college games. I mean, every week it just gets wilder and wilder and wilder. I mean, is this gonna be the entire season? Every single game is gonna be wild. I mean, to till the end of the fourth quarter, just crazy pick sixes, fumbles, crazy touchdowns. Like, are we gonna expect this for every single game moving forward?
I mean, that's just college football in general. So I think you're going to get games like that. You even have it in the NFL from time to time. But yeah, I definitely think that's just the nature of college football, especially any given Saturday. You're going to have wacky things that happen throughout the course of a game. And I expect this weekend won't be any different than last weekend, too, where you'll have some plays and upsets that people didn't see coming.
Of course. And look, Nebraska snapped Oklahoma's 65 game streak of scoring more than 27 points. Uh, the Gators, your Gators, man, they were just 2 points shy from beating the Alabama Crimson Tide in a game many decided that the Crimson Tide would win easily. It feels like Dan Mullen changed up the offensive scheme a little bit to include more outside zone reads and really get away from those big defensive tackles and punish the undersized linebackers. Do you feel that was a great call Mullen did to get this offense going in
Yeah,
the
I think
second half?
I think so too, and just rolling with Emery the pretty much the entire game, and just having him. I think the first few games of the season, they had him and Anthony Richardson really going, back to back, or he'll have Richardson come in, he'll have Emery just trying to, and it was a bit of a quarterback controversy, and then it seems like they had a really good plan for Emery. He had his best game, I thought, of his career in a loss. And it's something to build upon. I know it's no more victories in college football, but to be down 21-3 early in that game where it was just like Alabama was just going to pretty much run away and then to come back and fight in the way that they did, I think it says a lot about Florida and maybe, they're going to be better than what some people think. They still got to navigate a few games. Obviously, the Georgia game is going to be key if they want any shot of possibly beating Alabama again. But if they happen to beat Georgia, then, we may see this matchup once again in Atlanta in December.
Of course, and I honestly didn't think Emory Jones would have that good of a game running the ball. I would have preferred to have seen the freshman Anthony Richardson because I think he gives a better balance to this Florida Gators team, both passing and running wise. So I'm looking forward to seeing the future of Anthony Richardson and Todd Grantham's defense, man.
Yeah, they
They
look
held it
really
down in the
impressive.
second half. It
Yeah,
was
they
it was impressive. So I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I just thought they did a good job trying to get out the Royce Young and be able to distract them. And I thought the crowd did a tremendous job. It's like an old school swamp vibe, really, because they were having trouble hearing the plays, and you can definitely see that with a few procedure penalties there in the second half. But yeah, I thought Grantham's defense did a tremendous, one of the best jobs they've done in a real long time. He's taken a lot of heat, especially last year, where Florida had this prolific offense, but the defense really struggled, and that was really the big reason why they ended up losing the games that they did. Hopefully, like Florida gave Alabama its best shot, so now it'd be up to Florida to kind of see if they can continue this week to week. If they can, then I think they can get to Atlanta. But the question is, can they consistently continue to be dominant, especially that defensive line, and get out the quarterbacks the way that they did against Alabama? Because they gave Alabama their best shot. They didn't win, but it's still something to be able to carry over at least the rest of the way.
It's felt like back-to-back seasons the Gators are this close to defeating Alabama and possibly having a chance of going to the SEC uh, title game. But let's go ahead. We'll talk about the Florida Gators soon as we talk about the Volunteers and the Gators later on in the segment. Look, man, the state of Michigan is kicking absolute ass today. I mean, these past 3 weeks is unbelievable. Sparty is now 3-0 thanks to absolutely destroying the Hurricanes. 38-7. The Wolverines smashed Northern Illinois 63-10, and Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford was 28 for 32 for 280 yards and 2 touchdowns. This Nittany Lions defense is legit. Uh, does Jim Harbaugh finally have his quarterback of the future? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, look, Michigan. I kind of want to buy into Michigan, but I'm not exactly sure if they're gonna. They have what it takes. I mean, they've done this before. They fooled all those before where they have really good starts. They've beaten Western Michigan, Washington, who is not as good as I think a lot of people thought, in Northern Illinois. So now you're playing, Rutgers team that's, has improved, but still, not the upper echelon of the Big Ten. I think we'll learn more about Michigan next week when they play at Wisconsin on the road in Camp Randall. And then obviously you got the game at Michigan State coming up, Penn State too as well later on. They got a tough schedule,
Yeah.
especially with a lot of road games at Penn State, at Michigan State, at Nebraska, at Wisconsin, and then obviously the Ohio State game. Everybody will be pointing at it. So I'm not necessarily ready to say that Michigan is back or Harbaugh has his quarterback of the future as well. But they're definitely going in the right direction, and they have looked good the last 3 weeks.
So I want to ask you this: can Urban Meyer come to the Miami Hurricanes or the Florida State Seminoles?
I don't know if that's gonna happen. I mean, he could if he wanted to. I mean, he could probably have any job that he wanted to be completely honest. I think Florida State is it. I think they really like Mike Norvell. It's just he took over a really bad situation, and then they're going to try to hope he can navigate out of that. Last year, I don't even think necessarily counts because it was such a COVID year. It was his first year there. They wasn't able to really have a fall of spring practices, and now he's starting to build this program. So I think FSU is kind of in a different spot than Miami. Miami, on the other hand, I don't think it matters who's going to hit. First of all, I think Miami has issues. I don't think they can get over Meyer simply because they wouldn't pay him enough. That's first. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get a quality coach like that unless you're paying like $8 million at least a year.
And the Manny Diaz's buyout is $8 million too.
Exactly. So yeah, you're paying. You're gonna have to really the Miami alumni are really gonna have to come out their pocket if they want to do that. I think the biggest issue, and I heard Kurt Herbstreit mention this earlier, is just I don't think their administration really cares that football is great there anymore. I think they're accepting that it can be good or decent. I think they're okay if Miami wins 8 or 9 games a year. The alumni doesn't. The fans don't. Fans want more than that. But I think the administration is like, okay, we're making money. We can be, as long as we're decent in football, it doesn't really matter. And then you saw it in Barry Jackson's article in the Miami Herald. They just don't, it doesn't seem like they really care to be great anymore in football. Yeah. And it's sad to say. I mean, you got a big time program, a ton of alumni. You're still getting players in the NFL that, especially, and you're recruiting at a high level still. Miami's still recruiting top 15, 20 per year. I don't think they're on the same page between the administration, the AD, and also the head coach. So I don't think it matters who the head coach is going to be, as long as the front office stays the same and they don't necessarily care about football. And that's what it seems like is the case.
Gotcha. So let's go ahead and talk about the 3 biggest games today. The first one is in Chicago, Notre Dame versus Wisconsin. Right now the line is Wisconsin -6.5. The over-under is 45. The Fighting Irish have not looked like prior teams and definitely have not been up to standard this season and could use this as a statement game to turn the momentum around. If Brian Kelly wins this game, I believe he becomes the most winningest coach in Fighting Irish history.
Correct. Yes.
So what do the Fighting Irish have to do today in order for Brian Kelly to get that record?
Well, I think defensively, I think that's been the issue with Notre Dame. Is it's not offense. I think Jack Cohen's done a tremendous job so far this year, especially taking over a tough situation where Notre Dame lost so many players to the NFL draft throughout the offseason. And now, I think we're seeing some of that, especially come to fruition. You saw in the Florida State game, saw in the Toledo game where Notre Dame almost lost too. But I think Cohen has been a stabilizing force for that Irish right now. I just think defensively, one, they're going to have to be able to slow down Wisconsin passing game and also running game and be able to get penetration on the quarterback too as well. Wisconsin has one of the best offensive lines in the nation. They typically do. So I think it's going to be a big test. And then I think on the flip side for Wisconsin, I think it'll be one of the toughest tests they face, facing a Notre Dame rebuild offensive line and also offense too. Because as bad as Notre Dame has been defensively, I think they're still good and be able to score points. So, and Wisconsin, you kind of saw the challenges they had, especially playing Penn State a few weeks ago, where they weren't able to score a lot of points there offensively. So it's going to be a challenge definitely for Wisconsin to be able to keep up with the Notre Dame offense. But I definitely think it's going to be a really good game. But the key for Notre Dame is definitely be able to, get pressure on the quarterback and be able to slow down Wisconsin's running game.
And you said it too, former Wisconsin starting cornerback Jack Cohn, who's now with the Irish. He's had a little bit of a resurgence. He's completed 62.6% of his pass attempts for 828 yards with 8 touchdowns and only 2 picks. It might be a bit tough for Kyren Williams to get going against this tough Badgers run defense. And Coe, he's going to have a big game in order for the Irish to win this game. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about the Wisconsin running game with Chez Mellusi. He erupted onto the scene as the Badgers' top running back with 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's a redshirt sophomore. I think he redshirted his freshman year. It's something like that. And I believe he's got to be the focal point of this Badgers effort on the ground game. Is Mellusi the next great Badgers running back?
I think he could be. I think he's a junior. I think he's a redshirt junior now.
Redshirt
But
junior.
yeah, I think. But yeah, I think he could be. I mean, he's a long line of really good running backs. I mean, they got a stable of running backs between him and Isaac Guerrando, who I think has done a really good job too as well. He's averaging I think over 8 yards per carry. So yeah, I think they have a good two-headed attack with both of those guys as well. But yeah, you look at Wisconsin, I think their offensive line has really paved the way for both of those guys to have a lot of success too, as well as taking a lot of pressure off of Graham Mertz, who, doesn't feel like he has to do too much. He hasn't thrown a touchdown this year, has thrown a couple of interceptions. But in this game, he's probably gonna have to, you're gonna have to win some games throwing the football down the field, because I imagine Notre Dame is really gonna put 7 or 8 men in the box and force Mertz to beat them with his arm.
Of course. And let's go ahead and talk about Hussam Patel. It's a new segment here at the Scouting Combine, and I'll be delving into, the big players everybody should be watching along with draft prospects. So for Notre Dame, you got to watch Jack Cohn, Kyren Williams, who could be, one of the top 10 running backs drafted in this upcoming draft cycle. Michael Meyer, he looks like a fantastic tight end. Kane Madden, Jared Patterson on the offensive line, and Isaiah Foskey as the edge rusher. Kyle Hamilton, I mean, this dude is an absolute baller, and Swan. Could he be – people are labeling him as a top 5 prospect, but could he sneak into the top 3 maybe?
I don't know if it'll be Kyle Pitts territory. I mean, it's rare to have a tight end taken that high, but I definitely see him being a potential first-round pick, especially with all he can do. I mean, he's everything you want in an NFL tight end. He can catch, he can, decent blocker. You can line him up as traditionally. You can also line him up kind of like a slot receiver. I think he really does it all, and I think you look at the lineage of Notre Dame tight ends throughout the course of the years. I think Meyer just fit in that same type of mold that a lot of these guys have. And, I definitely think he can be a first round pick, especially what he does. And their offense really revolves around him. I think, looking at their offense and Jack Cohn, I definitely think the way he's played last year, it seems like Meyer has been a good security blanket for him. So, yeah, if you're watching this game, I definitely think Meyer's the guy you look for. And I expect Cohen to also target him early and often in this game.
And for Wisconsin, it's quarterback Graham Mertz, running back Chez Mellusi. Tight end Jake Ferguson has come on along too, destroying people within the seams along the offensive line. Tyler Beach, Caden Lyles, Keanu Benton. But the 2 people I'm really looking at are the linebackers Jack Sanborn and Leo Chenal, who have draft hopes as well. Now, Sanborn and Chenal aren't your typical of-age linebackers that can do well in pass coverage and also do well against the run defense. I mean, they're good in both areas, but it's nothing too special. But they're solid, kind of like Andrew Van Ginkel and Vince Binkle. Do you think they could match up well against Michael Meyer and Kyren Williams today?
It's gonna be a challenge, but yeah, I think you're gonna have to have those guys bracketed him, and also possibly get some help over the top as well. I don't know if you can necessarily get Dart Meyer with one singular person. I think it's going to be a collection of players, including Sanborn, that's been able to take that responsibility on. But also think you want to be able to have Sanborn also keep some of the same responsibilities that he does typically, and also help out your run defense too, as well as the pass coverage. So yeah, I definitely think that I think it's going to be a tough assignment for him, but I expect Wisconsin to have a lot of different answers or try to figure out different ways to be able to slow down Meyer throughout the course of the game. I don't think it'll be one guy because I think it's going to be hard to just contain him with one singular particular guy, especially considering he's their top target guy on the team right now.
Of course. Now let's go ahead and talk about uh, the game later, Texas A&M and Arkansas. And I was watching the movie Greater, the true story about Brandon Burlsworth, the walk-on Arkansas Razorback offensive lineman, and it was an incredible, poignant movie. And Arkansas is nationally ranked. Again, they're within, I believe, the top 20. And look, they had chances of going to the national championship. I believe it was in '94 or '95. This was before I was born, Antoine. So you're gonna have to correct me on this one. But the Razorbacks are playing against Texas A&M, and it's a strength versus strength between the Aggies defense and the Razorbacks offense. This combination of KJ Jefferson at quarterback, Traylon Burks, who's could be a first round wide receiver draft prospect in this 2022 draft. And running back Traylon Smith gives the Razorbacks a legit group of playmakers. But on the defensive side of the ball, you have DeMarvin Leal, Tyree Johnson, you have Damani Richardson at safety. So, what is the biggest key you're looking at in this game?
Well, I think for both sides, really, you start with Arkansas, and you talked about KJ Jefferson. I think going up against the nation's top scoring and passing defense too, and A&M has been able to shut teams down so far this year. They've only allowed 17 points, I believe, through their first three games. So yeah, I definitely think been able to get up to an early start and not turn the ball over. I definitely think it's going to be bit tedious there. Well, offensively for the Razorbacks, I think defensively, Jalen Catalon is also, he was amazing last year as a freshman, had nearly 100 tackles too as well, and I definitely think he's on pace to also have a really good year too as well. And then, looking at him, I definitely think he, is going to have to be a ball hawk, especially in a game like this where you're talking about Anita Smith, also a wide receiver for Texas A&M, who's been dynamic so far throughout the course of his career. So yeah, I definitely think that's kind of the matchup I'll be looking forward to as well. But yeah, for your Arkansas, I definitely think, especially getting that big win over Texas, trying to carry that momentum in a game like this in a neutral site in Arlington, I definitely think it's going to be a big key for them. But yeah, just really, Jefferson having a big game, I definitely think, and being able to score points on this stingy A&M defense is going to be the big key here.
Of course, and the matchup that I want to watch is tight end Jalen Windemeyer of the Aggies and safety Jalen Catalon of the Razorbacks. I think that's going to be a great matchup around the middle of the field, and you're going to see two top 2022 NFL draft prospects. So let's go ahead and delve into the hot shots for Texas A&M. Running back Isaiah Spiller. What do you think of him, Antoine?
I think he's a solid running back. Probably, I think right now, probably a day two draft pick there. Somebody that can, a good pass catcher out the backfield, also a good runner too as well. Obviously, when you think of Dabble, we think of a Jimbo Fisher and running backs, you think about Dalvin Cook or what he had in Florida State. But Spiller isn't necessarily on that level, but I definitely think he's on a solid running back that can definitely do some things and have a really good NFL career potentially, depending on where he goes. But yeah, I definitely see him being a second or third round pick just simply because of everything he can do. And he has some burners too. And they really underrated running back too in the SEC as well. But yeah, I definitely think he's going to have a really big game too as well. It's for today if they want to pull off the win against Arkansas.
And speaking of great things, our sponsor Bet US, they've been serving clients for about 25 years, and they pride themselves on being known as America's favorite sportsbook, with action on every sportsbook across the world. I mean, we can pretty much guarantee that we've got your game. BetUS offers the industry's bigger retail bonuses to keep our players betting longer. The BetUS loyalty program is legendary. We keep you guys updated with players, up to date with articles, players, team stats, and trends, giving you the tools to make the best wagering decisions. Make sure you go ahead, check out betus.com. You receive 125% sign up bonus by using the bonus code, promo code 125. Make sure to check out BetUS. Now let's go ahead. Kenyan Green. Look, I'm looking at Kenyan Green through the Miami Dolphins perspective of things. They need help on the offensive line. Kenyan Green is a top 15 pick in the next draft cycle. Now, the 49ers have Miami's pick actually. And it's looking like, 49ers are doing pretty good. And they may be out of the running for a top offensive tackle. And it's looking like the Dolphins may pick around the high 20s and 30s. Is Kenyan Green, do you think he'll be there around picks 20 and 30?
To correct you, I think the Eagles have the Dolphins pick because of the trade. Yeah, and not the 49ers.
We have the 49ers pick. Yes. The Eagles have our, yeah.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So, yeah, that's where it gets kind of tricky. But nevertheless, yeah, Kenyan Green, yeah, I definitely think, wide body, offensive lineman, physical, versatility. I definitely think he has a high motor. It's something that a lot of people talk about. I love his body. It's really like a strong, solid body. Just kind of, if you see him, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Somebody that, looks like an offensive lineman that could have a lot of success in the NFL too. And, somebody that's played guard, play a little bit of tackle too as well. And you like having that versatility as well. But yeah, I definitely think having just the way that he's built, I think you want him as kind of your tackle for the future there. But yeah, I definitely think, if you're the Dolphins too, if potential, or any team for that matter, and needs some offensive line help, he's definitely somebody that you want to point at and say, hey, you know what? This guy can definitely be a game changer and somebody you can plug in there for the next 10 years just because how strong it is and how solid he's been throughout the course of his career.
Of course, and for Arkansas, it's the big three, KJ Jefferson, Traylon Smith, and Treylon Burks. On the offensive line, it's Myron Cunningham, and the center, Ricky Stromberg. Safety, Jalen Catalong, undersized safety. He's a hard hitter, too. But I want to get your game prediction on this. So I predict Texas A&M to beat Arkansas 31-28. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's hard to go against A&M here, especially how good defensively they are, and they've been so far this year. I think especially offensively, I think they have enough too as well with Spiller and Watermeyer. I think it's going to be a close game. Arkansas is such a gritty team that they're always in every single game. But yeah, like A&M for the close win, probably more like 28-24 here. But yeah, I definitely can see it coming down to the wire.
Of course. Now let's talk about, tonight's game, the Volunteers versus the Gators. The line has Florida -19, over under 63.5, and Florida's the biggest favorite here in today's game. So, can the Big Orange beat the number 11 team in the country with Hendon Hooker at the controls?
I think it's going to be tough, especially.
I saw that reaction.
Well, I think it's a few things. One, I want to see, does Florida have a bit of a letdown? Because usually when you give a team your best shot and then you fail to get the victory, it's a little bit of a letdown coming out the next week. Now, obviously, it's a rivalry game, Tennessee and Florida. So, I expect Florida to be up. I know the Swamp is going to be sold out. I don't know if you're going to have as good of a performance as Florida had, but I think Tennessee is still in a little bit of a transition that I think the Florida Gators have enough, especially playing at home, to get the victory here. So Emory, I'm curious to see how he plays and how Dan Mullen manages him, especially with Richardson, and then see can that defense continue what they started last week against Alabama, and be able to get out to the quarterback and force some turnovers. So yeah, I definitely. I'm going to go with the Florida here. I think maybe like 28-21, somewhere around there. It seems like Florida and Tennessee always play some wacky, crazy games. And Tennessee really gets up for them, but they just can't complete the win, but I definitely think it'll be a little bit of a close game. But I expect the Gators to pull it out.
And look, I mean, Grantham's defense gained confidence play by play in last week's game against the Crimson Tide, and you're expecting a little bit of a letdown. And Tennessee's run defense may be elite, but the Volunteers haven't seen anything like this Gators attack with the five-headed rushing attack. Like, you could have Anthony Richardson, Emory Jones, Damian Pierce, the other two running backs just run wild. Can they at least keep them under 150 yards?
What, rushing?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be hard because I think if this was last year, then I would say yeah, because Florida rushing attack was really non-existent last year. Really, they were just throwing the ball with Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts. I think this year, with those guys being gone, they have to put a little bit more emphasis on running the football. That's really how they're moving the ball, at least early on in the season. So I think for Tennessee, I think it's gonna be hard. If they can keep them under 150, then I mean they got a shot to probably win this game somewhat. But I think it's going to be difficult, especially considering I know how Mullins, like he'll use Jones, he'll probably use some Richardson to get the run game going. They use a variety of different things and schemes just to be able to get yards on the ground. So I think for Tennessee, it's going to be very difficult to do that. But yeah, if the Volunteers can do that, then yeah, they definitely got a shot in this one.
Of course. And look, if the Volunteers have a good shot to beat the Florida Gators, they're going to need to get some freebies along the way to have a chance at keeping this close. They need to create and force some turnovers in order to score the ball. And the biggest matchups, in my opinion, is that Vols offensive line versus that Gators defensive line. I mean, Zachary Cardo, Ventrell Miller, Brenton Cox Jr., Jeremiah Moon, Muhammad Diabate. Oof. That's scary hours if I'm an offensive lineman playing in the SEC. And those are my hot shots of the week for Florida. But for Tennessee, Hendon Hooker has to have a good game against Todd Grantham's defense. I'm also looking at Jabari Small, Cade Mays, Aubrey Solomon, and Alante Taylor. But the biggest guy is Kyer Elam. And look, Derek Stingley and Andrew Booth and Darion Kendrick are getting, the biggest looks at cornerback. But it feels like Kyer Elam is being left out a little bit, even though he's a top 5 corner. But what does he need to prove that he's better than Derek Stingley and Andrew Booth this season?
I just think consistency. I think those are the really main things when you're trying to be among the upper echelon corners, especially up there with Stingley. You just got to be consistent every single week. And I think that's what separates Stingley as among everybody else right there in college football. I mean, he came into the season, everybody even knew who he was just because of the play he's displayed. But yeah, I think it's about being consistent each week, and if you can do that for the rest of the time you're in this year, the 2021 season, yeah, he might be able to be a high draft pick coming up. But yeah, I just think Stingley is just on another level right now, especially how he's played for LSU. So yeah, I think it's gonna be hard to get there, but you never know. I mean, players develop at a certain level and certain speed, and who's to say he definitely has all the tools to be a top corner in the league. I'll definitely say that.
Of course. And game prediction. Let's go ahead. Before we end it off, let's go ahead and give the biggest game prediction of the day. I have Florida winning by 10 points, 34-24. What about you, Antoine?
Yeah, I think 27-21. I think Florida gets the win here. I do think the Florida should probably win by more, but I just think it's going to be a close. Something's telling me it's going to be a little bit closer than what some people think. I think the line is at 19 points. I would definitely take Tennessee with the points. Like that's pretty large.
Yeah, it is. It is. And my manager at work, he's a UT fan, and he told me to go on a UT podcast and say if somehow, some way, the Volunteers win, I have to say UT is the best team in the SEC. And I don't want to do that because, number one, it's not even true. It's not even true. It's not even true, Antoine. Gosh. So, well, Antoine, thank you so much for coming in. And PhinManiacs listeners, as always, thank you for tuning in. Let's have a great game day on this Saturday, and let's hope the Miami Dolphins beat the Las Vegas Raiders in Vegas.